Okay, we're convening the public hearing on our proposed moratorium. Are there any comments on the original draft of the moratorium? Okay. Any abs-
I have a comment, and that is that the original draft was the initial outline of the proposed moratorium, but it has undergone a editing and an embellishment and added some features that are very important for the presentation of the moratorium and its work to the public. And
Okay, tell you what, Fred, let's talk about that when we address the revised moratorium language. Right now, I want to know if there are any comments on the original. And apparently there aren't. And so I'm going to close the public hearing on the proposed moratorium. And we're going to come back to this topic later in the meeting, but now we're going to continue with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America.
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Okay, so we have got two guests tonight, and we're going to take them first, and then we'll proceed with our regular business. So we're going to go to Kevin. He's here representing MACE, which is not an implement of war, but it stands for Municipal Alliance Code Enforcement. Okay, so you want to tell us about your organization?
We're a shared services group. We're employees of the town of Canevia, and we work with 13 other municipalities, 14 total, by contract. And
Okay, so you're not a separately constituted organization. You're part of town of Canada.
we're employees of the town of Canevia.
Okay.
We have to be. We have a completely separate budget.
Okay,
So our the monies from all the other municipalities aren't intermingled with
okay,
Canevia's budget.
okay.
And Mr. Stockham has gone to great lengths to make sure that's separated. And he's the administrator of MACE.
Okay,
And we enforce codes in each of the municipalities the way they want them enforced. And
okay, so I'll just review a few things here just to make sure everybody's clear on this. I think you were quoted $6,698 was the fee. I guess that's the annual fee.
it would have been $9 per parcel to whatever.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
okay. All right, and so just to clarify, we would not be paying any state retirement or social security for this agreement if we would go with it. Okay, and so as far as W-2s, you guys take care of all, that's all taken care of. And we're gonna keep our own solar code enforcement officer. So you won't be doing that. That was our understanding when we spoke with Phil.
Whatever arrangements.
Okay.
yes, certainly.
Okay. And so you have a standard permit application that everybody would use,
Yes.
right? Okay. So the one thing, and we talked with Phil about this, and he probably talked to you about, is with regard to zoning. And what's happening with AU right now is a perfect example of it. So they had proposing an expansion of the fields on Jericho Hill. And so they have to get a zoning permit for that. So we looked at our zoning and we say, okay, you need a special use permit. Okay, and so we were able to make that determination because they came to us for zoning permit. So now my concern was well, what if one of your code persons thought, well, that doesn't need a special use permit, that's permitted use, and so, in other words, I wanted the town to still be aware of any zoning permits that were applied for. We don't want to, you can enforce them, but we just want to know what may be subject to interpretation. So is there a way that electronically we can be notified of any? Well, how do we get notified of zoning permit applications and building permit applications?
However you would want it to work, whatever's gonna work better for you.
Okay,
We would sit down as a group at
Mhm.
Mace and go through the ordinance and see, just look for differences.
okay,
Differences, say, other than Rushford or Candia, to make sure we don't trip on other ordinances.
okay,
And we've gotten pretty good at it.
Okay.
Keeping them separate. And whatever procedure you want that's gonna work for you, we're not coming in here asking you to fit us.
okay,
It's just,
Good. Okay.
it's not the way we do it at all.
okay. So do you envision that if somebody applied for a zoning or a building permit, they would come to our town website and then it would get directed to you? Is that the way that would work?
I would need to see your local code law.
Mhm.
Typically, the boilerplate code law requires the code officer to be on site prior to issuing a permit. And we do that.
But how, okay, so to learn whether or not you need to go out, somebody's got to
Phone
follow.
call, we would direct people to call our office. And then we take that call.
And where would they get that from? Our website?
We could, I guess, you want to set that up, and get it from your website.
Okay,
And then once the applicant calls us, we walk through the 20 questions.
okay,
And once we see that a building permit is necessary, regardless what the work is,
Mhm.
the law is specific that our feet have to be on the site prior to issuing the permit.
Okay,
So what we've done recently, we'll say for the past few years, is handle everything on site and say, yes, okay, we're fine. Well, this is, everything that needs to happen is done. They've signed the application, they've signed the workman's comp paperwork, whatever's necessary. And then what we would do at that point is, if there were no further complications, no zoning permit necessary, we would just say, okay, you're okay to do the work. We will get the permit mailed out to you right away. That way the work isn't being held up for any unnecessary thing.
okay,
But zoning, it's obviously that would have to be handled first to see if it's a good fit for the district.
right. So what I'm envisioning is like, if somebody wants to construct something in the town, they need a zoning permit and a building permit, so it would go to our website. And as far as the zoning permit is concerned, would we then, I guess we'll have to talk this out with you, but direct them to your website to get the zoning permit, or?
We actually don't have an actual website right now for Mace. We do not, everything we do is in person.
Mhm.
It's because the entire field has just gotten so complex,
Okay,
be it zoning considerations, floodplain, wetland,
Mhm.
whatever may be the case. So we do the vast majority of our work in person. We have.
So how do you envision you would notify us of a zoning permit? What do you
Email
think?
something to you right away. If there was all zoning permits, just all zoning permit applications, make sure you have them in your hands. And then our initial look, again, would be to see, if it's a good fit. If it's not, then immediately, it's because from our end of it, typically zoning is very black and white. It's either yes or no.
Mhm.
And in zoning, we really have the simplest job in the room. It's the ZBA that gets to have all the fun.
Mhm. Okay,
And so it either fits or it doesn't, but you would get all the paperwork, all applications.
and with all that stuff, then we permanently file that here, but where's the permanent file?
Wherever you'd want it to be, we would retain a copy of it, so we'd have instant
Okay.
access to it. But in fact, if we were to begin working together right from the first day, we would maintain a permanent file of completed permits by parcel number
Okay,
for the town.
okay,
And that way, years down the road, if something comes up, we just access everything that
Right.
way. And we'll have a collective view of each municipality and what we've done.
okay, I'm gonna turn it over to the rest of the board if there are questions. Or the planning board or anybody.
How long have you guys been doing this? I'm sorry if I missed the intro.
It started out 2005.
Kevin,
Yes, well, there you go, you know, because you were part of that. I always see you there.
yeah, we're a little older than 2005. We started in 2000 with three
Okay, there
of
you go.
us. And then we've grown since. And to clarify one point, I tried through New York State, first Attorney General and then finally Comptroller, to make Mace an independent organization, but they would not allow that. And so it's under Canada right now, so that the men have retirement and workers' comp and that. But the town of Canada really exercises no control over Mace. The board never discusses anything about Mace other than any of you would as a member. Canada has one vote like all members. And the other thing, this has been vetted through the state and very clearly from the beginning, and the agreement that's written up meets all of the expectations for municipal code and for code enforcement. We've gotten high praises for the inclusiveness of everything that's in the agreement. And so it's a pretty solid thing. And it may not stay in Canada. We're exploring ways to try and make it more central in the county, but I think it's going to grow, and like it's grown from 3 to 14 members right now. So we're glad to answer any other historical comments.
So right now, if somebody needed an on-site visit, you guys are dispatching from Canada direction.
Canada, yes.
Okay. And you guys just schedule directly with the property owner for that
Yes.
kind of thing?
Yes.
And that, it's all included just in the base
Mhm.
rate?
Yes. There's a permit fee schedule, which is, we really worked on that and polished it for quite a while to try to reflect the amount of times we have to be on site. For a new home, we may be there a dozen times or more. And so the prices generally reflect that.
Okay, so there's again, I'm sorry
That's
if I
okay.
missed some of this. So there's a rate that we as the town pay
Yes,
to retain your services.
Yes.
But then there's also a fee
yes,
for each application based on what the application is.
yes.
And that's paid to you by the homeowner, by the
Yes, that's
landowner?
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So that would be a bit of a change from what we have now, correct?
Right. Now, do you charge, is there any mileage fee that you charge us?
No, there's no additional fees charged to the town.
Okay. And do you automatically send a copy of the building permits to the assessor?
Yes, and to the town clerk.
Mhm.
Yes.
Kevin, how many on your staff and how many towns are you covering at this point?
3 on staff right now, and we work with 14 municipalities now. There's 3 villages in there in that number.
And they're all Allegheny.
Yes, yes. Primarily in the northern half of the county. We do SIO, so
Do you have that fee schedule handy, or do you need me a ballpark on what?
I could give you a ballpark on it, I don't have it handy.
Okay.
But the minimum, the base permit fee is $65.
Okay,
There's, like the fee for, pole style buildings is 200. The, for dwellings, it's based on area
okay,
as the
square footage?
yes, as the square footage increases, it's a price per square foot, say, when you get up to around, 2,500 square feet, it's 25 cents, and it goes up to 45.
Okay,
When you get into, a 500 square foot home. And there's essentially all the inspections are there, no matter what.
right,
But you have the same number of trips.
Yep.
So it really doesn't achieve anything to charge somebody more just for building a bigger house.
right.
So we get that price, the scales down.
Can you send us a copy of your fee
Absolutely.
schedule? Or do we already have it? We didn't already get it, did
I
we?
think it was included in that packet.
It was.
It was, okay, then I should have it. Okay, well, I can get one. Are there other questions anybody has?
And this is Ken. So what would that currently do to the current fees? Are we talking about double, triple, quadruple?
Is that Ken?
Yeah, can you hear me?
No, Ken, we can't hear you.
Oh, is it still breaking up?
That's better.
Okay. What would that do to the current fee schedule? Would it double it, triple it, quadruple it?
Significant increase. I think our building permits, what, like 200 for a
Based
residence,
on cost of construction,
based on cost of construction.
that's the fee was.
I think
The
our-
fee schedule was state when they first did the, that's the fee schedule was using.
How many permits is that, $10?
This one affects some. The fees won't have, right, the fees won't affect some.
So, Jen, you probably would know then, would it make sense, would we have the option to change our fee schedule since we wouldn't be handling the actual enforcement of it?
Well, I don't think we can change our fee schedule because we're contracting it down, and we'd have to use their fee schedule. Because that's who we're hiring.
Right, but
to
we
work.
wouldn't be charging ours and
No,
theirs.
no, it would just be everything relating to a building permit would go through them, everything from that right to the finish, to the certificate.
Okay,
We would be totally out of the building permit process.
okay. So how do the payments go directly to you, like as a contractor almost then, like for a landowner?
Yes, we, typically what we do is we'll collect the fee, either check or cash on the job site when we're there for a site inspection. And when we send the permit to the property owner, there's a receipt stapled to the original building permit, copy of the printed out building permit application was sent also. And a schedule of required building inspections. And this all covers about 20% of code enforcement. The rest of it's property maintenance.
Yeah, that was my next question. And I'm sorry, it's probably in the agreement that I didn't read yet, but
It's
too honest.
It's just what it is. That's part of it. The vast majority of the time is involved with property maintenance. We're very aggressive about it. Some of the practices we've adopted are quite literal take on language in the uniform code, particularly chapter 1 of the fire code, where it deals with unlawful and unsafe structures.
How do you become aware of property maintenance issues?
We generally allow or require complaints. When, just from advice from attorneys, our attorney, that when we generate a complaint, it can very quickly take on the appearance of unequal enforcement.
Mhm.
You know, what about that person? But if we're responding from a complaint from outside, then we didn't initiate the complaint and we didn't initiate the enforcement.
Okay,
But again, we're not really coming in saying, we need you to do this our way. We want to look at what you want, what you need, your experiences back. We have, lately, it seems we've been involved in at least one due process hearing a week. Where we find ourselves in a
Medium, like
situation
it's not worth it, it's gonna hike fees.
where we need to have somebody removed from safe. And the due process hearing, I think we're.
and those were precipitated by a
Nothing
complaint?
has to do with age
Yes.
matter.
Yes.
They're all like, oh, we were the con.
What do we have drifting in here? Oh. Okay,
So, but yeah, that's about 80% of the job is the property maintenance.
wow,
What about things like, and I don't even know how it works, but like rental inspections and things like that?
We wouldn't get involved with rental, inspecting the inside of dwelling units unless you have a separate, rental inspection law.
we do not.
Okay, again, what we would do first day, if this were ratified, I would need a copy of all your local laws. So we can sit down and go through them. In fact, all three of us would sit down and just go through them one page, one line at a time and see, what. Even there's one law that seems to be difficult to get a hold of, this, the flood water prevention law. Is, we need a copy of that to see who the floodplain administrator is. Because when we work with EEC, they can't speak to us specifically about floodplain matters if they don't know if we're the floodplain administrator. And all the municipalities we work with have named us floodplain administrators in their municipalities.
So we have that option to name you as,
Certainly, yes. And that's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger all the time.
other questions?
What about seeker?
What about seeker?
Attorneys. We don't get involved with seekers, not short, long forms, just typically we'll see the attorneys handling them.
Okay,
Is there, we don't have to get into the weeds and the financials, but I'm curious, beyond the permit fees, is there an annual fee for your services? The town would be,
Only for parcel, there's a manual for parcel fee. That's it.
it works out to be, based on the number of parcels, it works out to be $66.98 a year.
okay.
I tell you that if I can jump in again on that, the parcel number is determined by the list from the county real property tax office. And if your town has any county parcels that are owned by the county, then those are subtracted. Other than that, the number comes from the county, and your number is 788. I made a mistake when I told Jan Jan gets me so flustered. I don't know what she does for the rest of you, but
She's a calming influence for us.
but I grabbed the price off of last year, but I'll let you still join for the price I gave you, though. It's really 50 cents more a parcel, what Kevin told you, the $9. But see, every year we have the option of voting to reduce the per parcel fee if the year's been good, or if we want to save the money for something else. So we were debating long and hard for this year's budget, whether to drop it back to $8.50 a parcel, but we never did do that. We kept it at $9. But I had given Jan the $8.50 quote, but I'll let you still join for the original price I gave you for this year.
Calm down.
Say, Phil, if I can ask, please, and the beginning of your presentation was kind of garbled and there are parts of it that I can't really hear that well. Could you, in 25 words or less, describe what it is that your agency or your group is providing?
Code enforcement services, period.
Code enforcement services.
New York State Building and Fire Code. We follow that, plus any other things that the town itself, the municipality might have in addition to. We cannot go less than the New York State Building and Fire Code. And our guys are very good. And usually the biggest new thing that we bring to the town, besides taking all the business, and your clerk doesn't have to do anything, et cetera, but our guys are available all day long, every week. And a lot of code guys are only on call or certain hours, certain days in the week. We're there all the time. And if the need be, they'll even work on the weekend. I don't know Alfred town that well. Say Canady and Rushford with Rushford Lake, we have a lot of weekend people. And they come out and they want to do something on their property on the weekend. Kevin and the guys service them then. Or a bank can't do a new sidewalk on Friday when they have to be open. So we do them on Saturday. We're very, very flexible and we're very, very good. I'm bragging on those guys now. Every code guy has at least 20 years or more in the contracting experience.
Now, are you an LLC or what is your structure?
I tried something like that, but the state wouldn't let me. So we are simply an independent organization that has to be under the municipality, which right now is the town of Canandaigua.
I see.
But all Canandaigua does is payroll stuff. And, health insurance, we get through the group that we have. And then workers' comp comes through the county like most of the towns. And then retirement is with the state and wages. But it's just Mace makes its own budget. It's not voted by Canandaigua. It just, unfortunately, the state would not let me sit under an independent group and be part of the state system. So, I tried first with the Attorney General. You'll appreciate this. I told him I'd asked for advice. I want to organize this. How can I do it? They said, we don't give you advice. You do what you want and we'll tell you whether it's right or wrong. I said, I'm not going to make that investment and then be told I'm wrong. So the state comptroller gave me this, but we have a totally separate budget, total separate bank accounts. There's no intermixing of funds with the town at all.
I'm curious, it sounds, if you've got 3 people full-time now, I'm guessing you didn't start at that. How do you decide when it's time to expand or when the workload is?
When Kevin tells me they can't handle what they got. Yeah.
And where would you say you're at right now?
Comfortably, we're comfortable right now. I think
Okay.
we probably take on 2 or 3 municipalities comfortably.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments? This is something we'll have to discuss at length among the board members. You're a late arrival, but you listened. Do you have
I
any
heard
questions?
everything, yeah.
Okay, do you have any questions before we terminate this part?
I just kind of wanted to know what the increase was, and I heard substantial, but, obviously, you didn't have a schedule, right? So we don't have any numbers.
I don't have a fee schedule.
Yeah, I think Jan had gotten one. We've got one.
It's in our,
Oh, it's an email?
Yeah.
Okay. Or if you
But-
all see it.
If I could stick in one more comment about the fee schedule, it is perfectly legal in New York State for code guys to do interior electrical inspections. And so our guys will do that in the fees that are on there. And a lot of times that's going to save money. I know when I did a extension on my home and Kevin Mace did it, $157 code permit fee, and 2 electrical inspections cost me $400. But you can have the outside electrical inspection if you want to, but our guys can do that, and that often saves money from a lot of towns, the regular practices. So it's perfectly legal.
Okay, any other comments?
And that's after the initial, obviously after the initial electrical entrance installation, which does require an electrical inspector for that.
That's third party, right, Kevin?
Yes, anything line side of the disconnect is third party.
Right.
And
But the rough in and all
rough
that.
and interior rough and final, anything load side of the disconnect we can do.
Okay. Good to know.
All code officers are certified to do it. It's covered chapter 34 through 43 of the residential code.
Nice.
I understand there's a new law coming out for code enforcement that has to be adopted by the end of this year. Of the state to replace the one from 2006.
Yes, there's attorney that works with Mace is looking into that for us right now to see what has to be done and exactly what language has to be adopted.
So if we go with you, does each town still have to adopt that?
Yes, because we can only enforce your adopted laws, your locally adopted laws. That's why it's so important. If you decide to do this, that we would, on day one, we would have to see all of your, a copy of all of your locally adopted laws. Because we've actually found ourselves in a situation where we're enforcing laws that didn't exist. Everybody thought they did, but.
Kevin, did you ever mention the legal? Mace never makes any decision about going to court. That's entirely up to the town, municipality, and then those expenses for court are borne by each town. But we don't do anything. We don't do anything that the town doesn't authorize.
What about a solar array? I mean, we've got a big farm coming in, and do you inspect that?
We're keeping our own solar code officer, Fred.
But Kevin, you can do that, right, Kevin?
Yeah. I'd have to look into it a little bit to see how the Department of State would deal with that, is having 2 code officers certified in the same municipality, but I'm certain you could do that.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
Our current officer, does he cite people ever? Did he ever anything up or
Regarding,
violations of local code? So you guys would then do the same thing?
Property maintenance concerns, yeah, yes.
All right, so when you cite somebody, it would be the same process as our current guy.
right.
I don't know. I get very aggressive about it because what can happen is you can spend 30 hours, literally 30 hours on somebody's 2 junk cars. So the language in the uniform code is very blunt. And what we've decided to do, what we've begun doing, is enforcing it as written. And quite frankly, an unlawful structure is one that's not built, maintained, or occupied to the code. Unlawful structure may not be occupied. And it's quite literally that blunt. And I know that a lot of code officers will write 30-day orders to remedy. But if there's a violation there and I say you can stay there for 30 days and they die of a fire from the defect on day 27, the municipality's proximate cause. So I even tend to stay away from the 30-day orders to remedy.
Hey, Dan, can you give me like 2 weeks head start? Let me know when they're getting rolling. Couple of things I need to take care of. Technically. So 30 days. But where situations are unhealthy, unsanitary, dangerous, that's where you'll see us move very quickly. And that's where we'll have to develop a process for due process hearings for Fourth Amendment protections.
Anything else? We'll be discussing this as a board. I'm sure we'll have other questions to get back to you with. So thank you, Phil, and thank you, Kevin, for coming. You're welcome to stay or do whatever you wish. Do you have a card maybe there, Kevin?
Yes, I do. In fact, I got one.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, thank you, Phil.
I don't know why I was.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it?
That's it. You're good to go.
Nice meeting all of you.
Thank you.
Take care.
I don't know why.
I'm gonna go to the end of the agenda now.
You take one for Wendy, Jim?
To Sean. Can you hear me, Sean?
I can. How are you, Dan?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I asked Sean to attend the meeting to talk with us about things we could consider as we enter into these agreements for host community with the solar farms. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Sean, if you want to give us some guidance on this.
Yeah, Dan, there's several things that you can ask for. I've seen a lot of municipalities just ask for stuff for cemetery services to try to improve their cemeteries, parks, nonprofit organizations such as Rotary or festivals. So it all depends on what the board would want to go after and to think about what they would want. I did talk to Ann today about prior to the host agreement. And there is some funding there for different things for the town. She said approximately about 10,000 a year. So when I talked to you, Dan, you mentioned the arts festival. I mentioned that to Ann, you know, they'd be willing to donate to that if they were to reach out.
This is Ann from Northland.
And Walling from Northland, yeah. Yeah, so as background for the board, I had sent, okay, backing up even further. Ken and I met with Northland Power and Allegheny IDA and the planning board, and Dwight was there as well. And we talked about the host agreement, and they're going to give us a rough end of what they're going to propose, was supposed to be forthcoming. But there was nothing mentioned about any of these upfront money. So I sent an email subsequently to Ann Walling and said that we're aware that other solar projects in Mount Morris and town of Burns had been getting some upfront monies for special projects. And I wondered what their posture was on that. And she emailed back saying, well, we could give you something as sort of an advance on your annual host community benefit. So is this 10,000 separate, Sean, from the host community benefit, or where does this fit in?
That'd be completely separate, Dan. It has nothing to do with the host community benefit. It's just their way of supporting the community and with local organizations.
Now, then I think there are two aspects in terms of this upfront money, like it could go to the town or it could go to community groups within the town that are not part of town government. Is she differentiating between yeah, okay, we'll give money to the Rotary, which we don't have, but I mean, or the Lions, which are not town government, or she'll give money to the town government for maintaining cemeteries. Where are we on that?
She would give the town money. I did ask that specific question. So one of the things I've been working on in Mount Morris is I've been trying to get a bunch of smoke detectors so the fire department can hand them out to residents that might need them and maybe go install them. So I asked her that question and she said, yes, they'd be willing to do that and partner up with the town on that. I did ask her about doing repairs in cemeteries, such as stones falling down. Would they be willing to help that? And she did say yes to that.
Good, and that all falls in within that 10,000 a year?
Yes, that all falls into that.
Is the flat 10K and any funds realized from the host community agreement? Is that all directed to the town or split between the three taxing entities like the pilot funds? Just the town?
Yeah, the host goes to the town, plus the town gets a portion of the pilot. So that the total, all in, we get about 50% of the total, but now this 10,000, Sean, that's separate from the all-in money?
Yeah, completely separate, something they've already budgeted for. Has nothing to do with the pilot or the host. It's just a matter of asking Northland Power for the funding and telling them what that funding would be for.
Just to be clear, you guys, when you met, talked only about funds from the Northland project, not the Delaware River Solar project as well. Or did you talk about both?
Correct.
Just Northland?
Right.
Yeah.
We haven't had a similar discussion. We've not had a similar with Delaware.
Mhm.
Anything else, Sean, that in terms of ideas you can pass along to us?
Yeah, I guess there's several, Dan. I sent you that host agreement that we did in Mount Morris. You guys could take a look at that, but you could be looking at trying to get access to charging stations. You know, would that be helpful for the community? You know, try to promote business on your main street, locate them in a proper place. And the list just goes on what you guys might need.
Again, that would all, we found that out of the 10,000, or are we talking host now?
No, that would probably come back out of the 10,000. There's some grants out there, so you can ask them, hey, help us write this grant, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I don't know if there's equipment needed for the town for your Zoom meetings. Go ask for equipment to help run them. You know, TVs for the boardroom, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so we need to be creative.
What's that? On the poster and the pilot, I think we kicked around the ballpark 5K per megawatt. Is that right?
So
Is there a
their
similar-
time, I think my recollection then was it's 100 megawatts and they were proposing, it was a little bit less than 3150. Oh, we didn't get a number at all. Oh, we can't talk about that. You're right. But it's public knowledge that Mount Morris got 3150, right, Sean?
The total agreement was 3750
Oh, 37.
Per megawatt
per megawatt.
for the host community agreement.
No, the all in.
And then
All in, the all in covers the pilot and the host.
right. And then there was some other stuff in there. We also ended up getting a side by side for our ambulance department, a trailer, a Tahoe to pull that trailer. We also put in there 20,000 a year for 10 years to go to local organizations to do different projects in the town. So that's the other stuff you would be adding. We've already had this conversation with Ann Whalen and with the fire department, what their needs were, so that would be tied to the host agreement. One of the other things is we ended up getting the county emergency services a $14,000 drone to help them out in case there is an accident up there. That wasn't in our host agreement, but it'll be in the road use agreement, which is tied to the county and the town because they're using both county and town roads.
Okay,
The 3750, that's the town's portion, or that's
that's
the
the
total?
total. So for Mount Morris, that's the total. And correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, but the 3750 per megawatt, and then when you take the host and the town's portion of the pilot, the town ends up getting 50% of that 3750.
Yeah, a little more than that. The town ended up with about 2,000 a megawatt of that 3750.
Okay.
And just so you guys, when you're thinking about the pilot and the host, there's a difference between a community solar project and a larger solar project that's connected to a transmission line versus a distribution line. Your community solar projects are usually more. They've been going about 5,500 a megawatt. So Delaware Rivers would be more. It's almost like retail versus wholesale.
So Delaware would be classified as, what's the terminology, community?
Community solar. Yeah, so your community solar projects hook into your distribution lines, which are your local lines right in town. Your transmission lines are the ones you see, the big lines cutting across the fields, that's what your larger.
So it's dependent on the hookup, not on the size necessarily?
It depends on the size too. You can't do a community solar project over 5 megawatts.
I was gonna say that there's only so much size that they'll take into the local lines rather than the big overhead lines.
Right.
Okay. Other comments for Sean?
So if we retain you, Sean, where does the payment yearly to do inspections twice a year, whatever, quarterly? Where does that funding come from in the whole contract?
It'd be set up in an escrow agreement that the developer would pay for.
And that's over and above these other packages?
What packages you talking about, Fred?
The host agreement pilot.
Yeah, the host agreement goodies.
Yeah, that's all separate and aside.
Okay,
Yeah, it has nothing to do with all the other stuff for your town benefits.
okay. And can that include a retainer for legal?
Yep.
Okay.
We've already done that with the town of Alfred with Northland Power. So they put an escrow in place already and deposited money into that escrow to pay for legal, engineering, and my services.
On into the future, though, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, we would just keep asking them to up that.
John, when do we have to come up with our wish list? Would you guess?
I guess you would have two wish lists there, Dan. You'd have one for now, which is at 10,000 a year. I would come up with that as soon as you can and start asking for that money. You know, whether it be a softball league or a soccer league for the kids or whatever it may be, I would start asking now. And then for the other, you guys should just be thinking of what you want in that host agreement. What are the needs of the town?
Now, let me ask you another thing. Dwight called me earlier in this week and said that Northland wants to set up a pre-application meeting in June. What's that all about?
So 94C requires that any developer has to have a pre-application meeting at least 60 days before they submit their application. So what Northland Power is telling you is they're going to be submitting their application very soon. And they're required by by law to have one meeting with the municipality, the elected officials, et cetera, then another one for the general public. I believe they scheduled one for June 21st with the general public as an open house. So the
Okay,
other meeting, Dan, is for the public officials.
and so the meeting with the public officials, what's the purpose of that? I mean, what should we expect to happen in that
Well,
meeting?
The purpose of it is it's required by law with 94C. And what Northland Power would do is just let you know about the project, what's going on. Some of the ones that we have done, Dwight or I can give you a list of who should be there. We usually say code enforcement should be there, your highway superintendent should be there, your fire chief should be there, to put their input into that meeting with any concerns they might have. Along with your town board and yourself, Dan, and planning board members, etc.
Okay,
So that's probably why Dwight's reaching out to you now. Did Dwight give you a date when they want to do that?
he thought it was going to be the 22nd of June. And he was suggesting that it would just be 2 board members, so as not to have a full board meeting, but also include all the other people you mentioned, fire chief, highway superintendent, county planner.
Okay. So he's trying to prevent the board meeting, but get a couple of people there to relay that information to the board.
Right, that was his idea.
Okay. And would he also said, I can talk to Dwight, he probably would suggest a couple planning board members as well.
Yeah, he mentioned, yeah, sure. They'd be welcome.
Just try to get as many perspectives as possible in that room that might have questions for them. You know, your highway superintendent's going to be talking about the roads that we might not know about what your needs are in the roads, you know.
Right.
The fire chief will have a different conversation. Your planning board chair would, you know, the list just goes on and on.
You're talking about the meeting prior to the official town officials meeting. Is that right?
This gets very confusing, but this is the pre-app meeting that would be the town, 2 members of the town board plus all these other people, and that would be separate from the open house, for the public.
Okay.
So apparently the open house is the 21st, and they want to have this meeting on the 22nd of June. Is that your understanding, Sean?
Yeah, and the open house might be on the 22nd. I thought they were trying to do one at 10 in the morning, then the other at 4 or 5 in the evening for the open house. So I might be off on the date for the open house.
Okay, we can figure that out.
Hey, Sean, separate from the financials, I'm curious what of these meetings might be the platform for people, whether it be community members or board members, to raise questions maybe around the site plan of the solar farm itself. I know there were some there was discussion around setbacks from McAndrews Road potentially because they've got a lot of leased property beyond what they need. If some of the road frontage can be preserved, things like that.
Yeah, and you guys can talk about any concerns you have. I believe the intent by the state was to give the town an opportunity, first of all, to know about the project, which you guys already do know about it. Second of all, give the developer information that can be helpful while they prepare their application. So they might incorporate some of them comments that come out of these meetings from the general public or from the municipal leaders.
Does ORES actually attend these meetings, any of these meetings, or do they rely on communication from the developer to get back to them?
ORES does not attend these meetings at all. this is just a requirement by ORAS to make sure that the local people are informed. So when that application is submitted to ORAS, the town then has a 60-day period to comment on that application, and those comments then are considered within ORAS's decision process.
Okay,
So I can tell you that when we did it for Mount Morris, we submitted 100 comments to that application. And that's where Dwight and Labella and everybody will go through the application, explain everything to the board and what they're seeing, and give, get input back and forth that way. But at that point, that's when you'll have your intervenor funds in place that'll be paying for Labella's services and Dwight's services.
Hey, Sean, regarding that, the public presentation on the 22nd, they originally tentatively had it scheduled for 4 to 7 p.m. after work hours so that the working public could attend it. Have you gotten any notification that that is being changed?
No, I know they still planned on holding it in the evening so that anyone that works could get there for the public.
Okay, you're thinking they might want to have a meeting with us and the officials immediately afterwards at 7 o'clock?
No, in the morning, 10 in the morning.
Oh, they'll meet with us prior to the public meeting.
Yeah, prior.
So I should probably put that on my calendar maybe.
Anything else that comes to mind at this point? Okay,
What day is that?
Let's say the 22nd.
June 22. Anything else we should hear from you, Sean, tonight?
No, I don't think so, Dan. I guess I would just leave this conversation, and as all the board members should be thinking of what you want to see in the town, what should you be asking for? Is it cemeteries or, again, like the arts program or whatever it may be? Just start creating a list and we'll start asking.
Okay. We'll start our Christmas list.
There you go.
All right, anything else?
I think that's it.
That 10,000 is gonna be just a one-time deal where
Every year,
every year they're willing to put 10,000 back into the community.
right.
Okay.
But, yeah, either to the community groups or the town government.
So is that,
could go either way.
is that something that we may want to consider creating some type of formal request procedure? Because if that gets out in the public, then we might be getting requests coming in. Is that something that we should just like create a form for?
Sort of like the survey we did on marijuana, just to put something out, see what kind of feedback we get.
Well, just, he was talking about not-for-profits even and stuff like that. And if they're gonna be like supporting different groups in the community, then how do groups contact us to make that request?
I was thinking of like a mini grants approach.
Yeah,
Mhm. So how would you do that?
I was just gonna ask, how does the accounting of all this work, and how does the state comptroller look at it? Sean, do you know?
Say that again, Jan. I'm sorry. I
How
couldn't.
does accounting for all this money work? And how does the state comptroller look at it? Like when he does an audit or something? I mean, I'm assuming this money has to be accounted for pretty carefully.
The money doesn't come into that $10,000. That money wouldn't be coming into the town. It'd be going directly to whatever that organization is.
Okay.
So say the youth softball league wanted $2,000 for uniforms and benches or whatever it may be, they would give that money directly to that softball league.
That makes it much better.
Can we modify the terms of the agreement? I noticed the Mount Morris agreement, just the term says from issuance to the decommissioning of the project. You must be able to amend it or update it along the way.
Ask John.
That's the man.
So if you look at the Mount Morris agreement, there's a 2% escalator in there, or a 1% escalator every year for the life of that agreement.
Yeah, I saw that. I wondered more about, changing beneficiaries halfway through or something.
Oh, for the 10,000.
Yeah, or maybe other things.
Different projects every year, or every couple of years. Depending on who else applies for the money.
Just to be
What'd you say, Sean?
clear on that part of it, that 10,000 is prior to construction. It has nothing, it's not tied to the host agreement at all.
Now, that's 10,000 a year, though, you said, correct?
Yeah, but it's not tied to the host agreement.
Right, but it runs 10,000 a year for the life of the contract.
No, the 10,000 a year only goes until they start operation. And that's where we put, if you read that host agreement, we up that number to 20,000 for the life of the project. And then those applications would then come into the town at that point, and the town would have a couple members there reviewing what should be awarded and what should not be.
So they're offering 10,000 pre-construction, and you're saying at Mount Morris, you got 20,000 a year for the life of the contract?
We got 10,000 prior to operation. Then in the host agreement, we put in there 20,000 a year for that life of that, for organizations to apply for. But the question we had here was, well, what if 5 different organizations apply and it comes to 40,000? How do we choose who picks?
Right.
How they came up with that was they were going to use 2 town board members. There'd be one person from EDF, who was the developer of Mount Morris, and then they would make that decision together.
So the 20,000 a year comes out of the all-in monies, right?
No, that's on top of the 3,750.
Somebody shoot me.
You're the accountant here, Dan.
Jeez. Okay, the 20,000 a year was above and beyond the all-in monies.
Yep, above and beyond.
So how do we get that? We just ask for it?
Just ask for it, just like we did. Same way, Dan, you got the stuff for the fire department. You just ask for it. We got, like here, we got the side-by-side and the vehicle and the trailer. Your fire department's gonna be asking for something. That's gonna be above and beyond those numbers they told you.
Okay, so one last time, they're gonna give us, they're offering 10,000 pre-construction. And then we should ask for something like 20,000 a year from operation to the end of the contract.
Yep. For the life of the host agreement.
Okay,
For argument's sake, Northland has their own committee that submit requests, but they have a committee that goes over the requests, right? And the money doesn't go through us. Northland's writing the checks directly to whatever organization's asking for the money.
Yeah, unless that organization is the town of Alfred.
Unless it's the town, okay. So in that case, if organizations throughout the town are requesting a grant, a Northland Power grant, then should we even get involved with that if it's not for the town? If this is a $10,000 for the community thing, should we just put, they just directly apply for that grant to Northland Power, and Northland Power, when their committee decides who gets it, and if it's over the $10,000, then they get put on the waiting list for the following year. If it's something for the town or something the town owns, then we make a request to the same committee for something the town does. But I mean, do we have to?
that's the man.
Right, Sean, does that make any sense, Sean?
That's exactly how it works.
Okay, so we don't, so we don't need an application. People from public aren't applying to the board to look at it. They're applying directly to Northland Power, and we just apply for town purpose.
That's.
Yeah, you can go on, you can go onto Northland Power's website, go to your project. What is it, Bright Oaks or I can't remember.
Alfred Oaks.
After
You go there and just submit hit the donation button and go that route. The important part of this is to just make sure the community knows about it and they start asking for it.
So,
Okay.
sorry, one more thing. So if the application process sort of leaves us out, how do we say each year? I would assume there's some sort of reporting coming from Northland saying of the 20K that we agreed upon giving to your community each year, this is how much and to whom it's being given.
They're gonna want that publicity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Wonder if it's tax deductible. If they send that money to a nonprofit, is that tax deductible for them to gift it to?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
So that's
That's why they're doing it.
helps them. Okay.
Business owners.
Reason behind that.
Okay, so we need to come up. Okay, Sean, what do we need to do first?
I need a list for the $10,000.
I think what you need to do is let your public know that this is out there and that someone should be asking for it. I'm
Okay,
not,
now, clarification, what is that out there? That's $10,000? What is out there? for
that's
the public?
$10,000.
One time,
Well, it could,
Per year until they get it.
per year until they are operational?
Until they're operational.
every year until it's operational.
Okay,
Probably 2
Got it.
years.
Where you could have, someone can apply for 2,000 and someone can apply for 4,000. But they'll go up to 10,000.
okay.
I guess my question is, does the town own any cemeteries? Does the town own the fire department, or is the fire department a district, or?
Now, fire department's a separate
Organization.
organization.
Are they 501c3?
Yeah.
So if they're 501c3.
Yeah.
Now, they mentioned that fire company is gonna get around about 40,000 a year.
I will.
Yeah, through special district taxes.
So they're gonna make out okay.
So how about your cemeteries, Dan? Do you guys own the cemeteries, or are they?
We don't own them until they get abandoned.
Would this be village organizations as well, or no?
I don't think so. I think this is.
Strictly town.
Mhm. This is strictly town.
Are any of those small cemeteries like on the various roads, are any of those deemed abandoned or they're
I mean, like the one at the end of Water Wells, where you
Yeah.
hit,
or water wells on the lake?
and
Yeah.
not Vandermark, or Vandermark, oh, that's Town Ward, that's right.
Well, there's one on East Valley that I'm pretty sure is classified abandoned.
How about the one out by Ray Palmer's gravel pit? Is there one right across the?
Oh, that's still in use,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's still news.
yeah, that's still in use.
Well, they could be still in use, Dan, but does the town maintain them, or is there separate
No.
cemetery?
No, they're separate organizations,
Okay.
associations, I think,
Yeah.
So can we then draft a public notice,
we should,
post it on our website, post it, media, whatever,
They need
Yeah.
to put a press release out to the.
press
Yeah.
release, there we go, yeah.
Alfred Son,
Mhm.
Wellsville Son. Okay, so we do that, we make this known to the public about the 10,000 per year until they're operational, and then what's the second thing we need to do?
Second thing is to start thinking about what you want in your host agreement besides that money that they're offering. Start thinking of what your needs are for that.
Okay, besides what money they're offering?
There's the
That's
agreement.
at 10.
Be upfront.
Besides,
I don't know what that number was, Dan. Was it 3,700 or what that whole all-in number was they offered at your IDA meeting there?
Well, we didn't have an operative number. We were just going from the fact that Mount Morris got 3750. We were
Okay.
just using that for our own internal discussion.
Hey, Sean, can you give us any examples of anything that Mount Morris got in the host agreement on top of that 3750?
It would be right in that host agreement, so you'll see that where they got the 20,000 a year. You'll see the side-by-side in the trailer and the vehicle.
Okay.
All should have gotten it.
Yeah, we got that.
Yeah. I didn't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
started
part of it.
scanning it, but-
Yeah.
They got some charging stations installed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yes.
That's where they get so many grants for those. Like-
Yeah, so our part of the all-in, and then we get an extra, we should ask for an extra 20,000 a year above and beyond that, correct?
Correct, and then you should be asking for other stuff too for your fire department. You should be asking for charging stations. You should be asking for whatever you feel fit that the town needs. You know, if you need something at the town hall, you might want to ask for that. You know, if you need hardware, or software for your board members, ask for that.
There you go.
Okay, all right, we'll have to get to work on that.
What if our planning board needs legal services to develop an ordinance for the control of telecommunications?
You can ask for anything you want, Fred. I don't know what, you know, if they'll give it or not, but you can ask for anything you want.
We got all these ideas that aren't really doing that much. And we've got some really, really heavy tasks to accomplish in terms of embellishing our zoning law and handling a very important issue. And we got an estimate of a cost. And if it has to be a somewhat independent group, the planning board could ask for the expense to hire an attorney. I'm just, you know, thinking a little bit different than the candy store kind of approach.
Wondering if they have this kind of money to throw around, do they want anybody to, can they hire anybody a full-time salary for like part-time? To like just, you know, have on site
And
around in town?
they will be hiring a full-time on-site person up there, but it probably won't be someone local, it'll be someone that they've already trained.
No, strictly full-time salary, part-time work. I don't have that kind of time.
Oh, no, yeah.
Anything else for Sean at this point?
Sean, I just want to make sure that I understand the financial part of it. They apply to Northland. None of this is going through the town, correct?
Correct.
And then Northland actually issues the money directly to the organizations that request the funding.
Yep.
Thank you.
That is correct.
But we as a town have to request the money from Northland to be
If it's for the
distributed,
town.
right?
No, only if it's for the town.
If it's a town project,
If it's going to these
Well,
other.
who's gonna ask Northland to give us the $10,000 a year?
we
That's-
don't.
That's what people
That
apply
goes to
directly.
community groups.
They're not going to, they're just gonna offer it up.
Well, I
No,
think
you
it's,
have, that's what you have to apply for these other
the
groups.
grant application process.
They-
And if we want to attempt, if we want to apply for one of the grants for something with the town, then we just go ahead and make it up and draft and apply for it.
Isn't it up to the town to tell them that we would like the $10,000 for these, for community projects? And that we're putting out a public notice to have these organizations contact them?
yeah, that was my understanding, Bill, was that the initial figure,
The initial request
we say to
had to
Northland,
come from the town.
this is the number we want for the
Right.
free.
No.
Sean
Then
said
everything is
they
out of our
already
hands.
said it though.
Aren't they?
Sean, is that already established?
What, the $10,000?
Correct.
Yes,
It's already established.
already established.
Okay.
Okay,
We also maybe have unclaimed intervenor funds to play with, right? That was $100,000.
Up to 100,000. And what's application of the intervenor funds again?
That's
What do we
1,000.
use those for?
Yeah, the intervenor funds, there's $1,000 a megawatt. Dwight will apply for that. As soon as the application is submitted, you're able to apply for it. So this project would have $100,000 available.
To pay what?
Hey, Dwight, Bella.
Dwight, Labella, it pays for any of your third-party services.
Got it. Okay, anything else? For Sean? Okay, Sean, thank you very much. It's been really informative, a little confusing, but I think we got a handle on it.
Well, if you have any other questions, you guys have my phone number, so feel free to call.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sean.
Have a good night, all.
You
Yeah,
too.
Sean.
Yeah, we would take the remaining balance of those unclaimed.
Intervenor
That's when I'll
funds.
get used to it.
I got a feeling there aren't gonna be any.
I don't think so.
Dwight has that.
Dwight's done that already. You get that in his budget for the next 3 years.
I saw that. Yeah. Okay. So, we go on with regular business. If so, I want to go to, so Bob doesn't have to be here all night.
You don't have a race with me, I'm fine.
You okay?
Yeah.
I don't have to rush to you?
No.
All right, then I won't.
What's another hour?
Okay, so you all got a copy of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
You might want to just change my last name in minutes. You named me Ken Snyder.
Are you serious?
You know what I did? I had Matthew Snyder there and I just didn't type over.
Ken Snyder.
Because I go to the previous.
That's my son.
Sometimes Ken, with two N's.
Well, it's kind of so.
Okay.
Then,
Is there a motion to approve the minutes as corrected?
Yes.
Second. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ian, okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Police report, you got a copy of the report a couple weeks ago, it's fairly standard. Any comments on that? You may have heard this, but when I attended the village board meeting, Paul Griffith said that the hot dog day was the most tame in many years. That they had fewer APD calls and fewer ambulance calls. He said that the ambulance that was on standby from Andover, they sent home. And he said they had a couple parties that were loud, but they walked onto the parties and people were compliant. And one place, the people hosting the party said, yeah, help us get these people out of here. So.
Is everybody partaking in legal marijuana now? instead of
Well,
getting hammered?
we were trying to figure out why people were not combative and they may have just gone to sleep. Yeah. Yeah, but he said they didn't have to break up the number of fights or it's just, so go figure, maybe marijuana, maybe not.
No guitar solo from the chief this year.
Pardon me?
Paul Griffith, he didn't play guitar. on-
No.
on
No, I
Sunday.
didn't, you know, not
What
this
is
time.
Well, they had
They had a live band.
Tell you what, they were loud.
they were loud.
We almost couldn't go to sleep. It was so loud in our house.
We were on.
Mile up the hill.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You can hear it between this day and.
Yeah, we got a natural empathy. We can hear what goes on downtown just like that.
No.
We do too.
It's a full,
Same thing.
that's a full 2 lines.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, code of
Yeah, it was
officers, do we have a report? Monthly report, anything to report there, Jan, as far as the numbers are concerned?
I want to get hold of Christine because there's a prior year. refund for prior year expenditures of 21,1685, and I have no idea what that is, so I need to call her and ask her what that is.
And
It
the
just
A
showed
fund.
up for April. There's one in the A and one in the B. The B one's only $30-some, but I just need out of my own curiosity, wondering what that is.
What's it, Mark?
It's prior year, refund of prior year's expenditures. And it's a revenue. So I'm not sure what that is.
Otherwise, we're okay.
Yes, and, the bank statements, I'm not gonna send them to you each month, I'm not sure that's a really good idea. So I just will make the hard copy for the office and put them on the table like I've done in the past.
Actually, under the new protocols, the supervisor is supposed to review the bank statement, so I don't think it has to be done by the board any longer. That's my assumption. Am I correct in that, Jane?
I think that's what.
Yeah, I think that's what he says.
They're all gonna agree with you.
I remember that, right?
You sure took us on the line.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the month that Dan doesn't show up, we should worry.
Check the bank statements.
Where's Waldo? Okay, Cemetery West Conference. So does everybody have a copy of that? Or?
No, they just have the registration form. It's like, I don't know, if they mail that, to everybody at home.
I did not get
We
one.
usually do.
Well, it's
You
right
can do it
on,
right
so-
online, you can register online.
Yeah.
But there is a registration form in everybody's packet, so, just let me know and I'll send one registration for everybody.
And they are usually worth, there's always something that's worthwhile there in each session.
And I think it is the same day as our June meeting.
June 9th.
Well, I mean, he'll be back in time, but
Yeah, so if you can, I would encourage you to attend. Okay. General abstracts. Doesn't look like there's anything unusual. Is that number right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it should be.
if we look at the actual abstract, it should be correct in there.
Where would that, that would be over there. Matthew, do you want to hand me the abstracts, general?
Oh. Officials. Well, it should be 3394.75.
3394.75 for the police, not 399, 339. And we got it this time.
Just missed a 4 in
We
there.
missed a, yeah, missed a digit, yeah. So what do you think is actually paid? Or what- okay, it hasn't been miscorrected. Okay, is there a motion to pay these bills? As corrected? Is Second,
Second.
Matthew, thank you. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Highway abstract.
I knew that was coming.
The 2016, yeah.
Yeah, the turbo went out of it.
Right after we did the.
Yeah, right after, about, it lasted about 2 weeks.
After what?
After we did
After I
the
picked the manifold.
manifold
and the
last
turbo.
meeting.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what I said too.
Oil line back.
No, they're connected, it just one band, it's, it goes 40,000, I think.
Oof.
Hmm, yeah.
Which truck was the hoist for?
Sterling.
No, the hoist is for what on the stern?
Sterling, the dump hoist, that's what picks the box.
Okay.
I tried to get it rebuilt. With 2 shot, had to get a new one.
Hmm. Well, that's a 06, right?
Yeah.
So. Okay, any comments on these other expenditures for highways?
It's down right now.
So what
Move we
was,
pay these bills.
what is Lane Enterprises? Is that,
That's for sluice pipes.
is there a motion to pay these bills?
So move.
Second?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you.
Maybe we'll have no.
And
Yeah, so,
we don't have any payments to Doyle.
No, like I said, he did send that.
And they said they were gonna send it out.
So.
keep off. They're selling fast.
We have no idea.
Check their own.
Yeah, they get somebody to come in.
I know. Yeah, we'll just like to make sure.
Right
It's
before.
culturally shop there. Okay, Bob, highway report.
We did a sluice pipe on Ormsby, graded Tilbury, graded Hanneman and Clearview. Ditch work on Mullen, graded Cornelius Road, filled potholes on the roads, put the banners up. And some air leaks on 10 Mac, new tailgate latch on 10 Mac. New starter cables and alternator cables on the Sterling, a new turbo put on the 5500 when we switched our tires off from winter to summer tires.
Is that why we got a frost?
Yeah. Yeah, when it took all that, that's all I have.
I haven't taken mine off yet. I was trying to avoid the
Yeah,
frost.
last storm, the storm we had, I had problems with 5500 pickup, because everything else was good.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
Yeah.
you. Turberry's nice. thank you.
Tilbury is really nice now. How, so what's the rotation on that? About every 5 years?
Try it somewhere around there.
Okay.
I tried to pick a road, and then when I pick that road, something else happens, so then it cuts back. Yeah,
It's 10 years for CHIPS funds.
yeah.
So if it's a CHIPS project. it's
So I'm gonna do a
10
chip
years.
every 10.
Okay.
But I knew the ditch was getting full.
Yeah.
So,
I think in the last minutes, we indicated which roads were CHIPS roads, right?
I might have to switch that around here, I think.
Okay, because we have to put that in the minutes
Mm.
when we spend the CHIPS money, or where we spend the CHIPS money. Anything else?
I walked the grounds, there was a new pipe at Dave's.
Anything else for Bob?
It was, I can't install.
That depends on what happens to this solar farm
Okay.
Because that road's gonna have to be reinforced before they start.
before they even start.
Yeah, I drove it the other day and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I thought about turning it back to dirt. I already did one at the far end of it.
Well, that would be something to think about as a use for some of the tree.
There will be a road use agreement.
Yeah.
Right.
So I thought about turning, this is what my thought is, turn it back to dirt. When they're done, and they can pay to get top coat, powder, black top, stone oil.
All right.
But they may wanna, I mean, would it be suitable for their vehicles if it's turned to dirt?
Yeah,
Oh,
it'd be a lot easier for me to maintain.
they're gonna be driving right now.
They're gonna be driving on
I'm just wondering if you can get them to rebuild the road before they start. And then fix it up when they're done.
They probably like it, turn it into dirt
it.
better.
I turn it into dirt because it'd be easier for me to maintain the pothole start. All I gotta do is run the grader up there and cuff it and roll and be done.
What if we
And
said
they
we
can
want
leave
to
us
pave before?
Well, there's your road use agreement right there it is.
I mean, why not ask for, to pave that road?
No, they'd rather pave it after, so we get a brand new road that they're not tearing out.
Before it's gonna get off the road.
I have to pay it after, so when you're
I
all
guess-
done hauling on it, you got a brand new blacktop road that won't have to touch for 20 years.
The only thing there is the time between now and construction is likely 2 to 3 years. Is it okay to sit
Well, yeah, if we turn back to dirt, yeah.
for 2 years?
Yeah, I'll just keep grading it. Keep honing it and be all right. Because technically, when I grind the road, they want me to let it sit for a year or two. So that
Where would
hardens
you
up.
start?
The next part where
I mean, would you do all McAndrews? How
I
would the
already got
residents,
the, at the far end, it's already dirt, I already turned it to dirt.
how would the residents feel
I
about it?
don't know.
About something to think about.
I might have to live on a dirt road for a little bit.
Do they want to initially pay to keep dust down?
Well, if I turn it back to dirt, we'll just keep the brine on, they'll keep the dirt down, the dust down.
Yeah, right now, the dirt roads are less dusty than my road.
And your road's getting going and turn it back to dirt for a little bit. I was gonna pump there and sweep it, but once it's sweep,
We sweep it, it'd be all smooth, it'd be almost like a grader.
I'm gonna drag your road.
Yeah, or whatever makes sense.
That's what I'd try to do, turn it back to dirt for a little bit.
Well,
I guess we find out when they're gonna build it, they're gonna build,
should we have Sue Coder whoever look at it and see if it should be ground instead of,
all it needs to be ground. I already know that for definite.
well, would it make more sense to do that than to just rip it?
Yeah. Grinding, putting material back into it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we already know it needs to be ground.
Yeah.
There ain't nothing left.
It's too flat anyway.
That's why you get potholes, to bind to get off.
Yeah. All right,
Okay,
just wanted to think about
anything else for Bob? Okay, supervisors report. Okay, we talked about spending 51,000 of the rescue plan monies for the parking lot. And we said we'd think about it and decide tonight. And Bob, do you have any update on that?
55 roughly. He told me. Depends on what the price of oil does, be 55,000. These prices keep, oil and everything keeps going up.
Is he? We have to bid this?
Definitely.
See, now they told me I didn't have to.
Why?
That's
It's
a good
over,
question.
it's
That's
way
what I was
over
thinking.
your bid limit.
They have a ODS.
If it'd be going off OGS or state bid, you wouldn't have to be, and I think that's what they're going off.
For the oil. Who's on
So,
the labor?
the labor, yeah, because Suco's gonna do it, so they're the labor, they're paying for, they're doing it. The only thing we have to pay for the material. No,
If they're going to local off of OGS, then that'd be done, because
they're
that's all.
going off
they
state
did.
bid, they're going off
Off
state bid.
yeah.
I will double check that tomorrow. But I'm pretty sure we're going off state bid.
Okay. And that would be from Shaw Road to the corner of the garage.
and all the way out.
No, we're just before that red dumpster out there, where that little dip is, the water can shed.
Right.
So the driveway, we kind of slope that one.
Does that meet the asphalt that's in front of the salt bin?
There'll be, we can tie it into it, yeah.
May as well.
So from 21 all the way to
No, from
From
Shaw.
Sharon to the building island.
Mm.
And there I'll take towards the yard.
Well, I think, we
that's
need to
for
vote on
a
whether
heavy-
we want to do this.
So 3 inches of binder, 2 inches of top, so total 5.
How it drops, right?
Yeah, that's what they pretty much do with it.
That's what I thought, but I haven't cut profile one recently.
What's the color?
Pretty much, yeah.
So this, last 15, 20 years?
20 years, look at the parking lot over there, the salt shed, we haven't touched that, that's been built back in the 90s.
So what do we want to do?
Is that pretty much the remaining balance on
No, we're going to spend about $6,500.
That's all this year's though, right? Until we get the
Yeah.
next chunk.
But we've got some cash in the A fund that we can use and then reimburse ourselves. When do we get the other half?
I think it's supposed to come in the end of June,
Okay.
right? Is that what you heard?
Yeah, come on, yeah.
So it's already full funding.
Yeah, we have them.
How soon will they do it, Bob? They can fit it in this year?
Yeah, I want it back soon, so.
Yeah.
So sooner for me, then I can start on them roads.
Since fuel's doing nothing but going up right now.
I would say
That's
lock
what
in
I'm
price,
Yeah, get it, yeah,
get it locked
Okay.
in.
motion.
Okay, Ken's moving a motion that
I'll
we,
second it.
pay
Proceed.
55,000 to Suit Coat to have the parking lot paved. I'll second Ken's motion.
I guess it's gonna have to be, you said depending on the price of oil, it could go plus or minus whatever, a few percentage points.
Yeah.
Can we lock it in? Like,
No, I think we have to pass a
What's room
resolution
to match?
with a number on it.
Does it have to be a hard
The
number?
longer we
Yeah.
wait, the more it's gonna go up.
We should be able to lock it in.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think we'd say 55 max.
So sooner we can do it, the better.
Tell him that's,
Right.
yeah, that's what we're gonna pay.
Okay.
So we got a motion, I second, any more discussion? It's coming out of rescue plan monies, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Wendy?
No, I'm fine. Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous, thank you.
With those glasses on.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know it.
You
You weren't sure if you fell asleep in your chair.
Those are VR goggles. She's playing games.
Got her Hollywood. on.
VR goggles.
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to get 2 board members, probably 2 different board members to go to a meeting with me. We've got this meeting that we spoke about earlier, the pre-app meeting with Northland, which apparently is going to be the 22nd of June, which I think is a Tuesday at 10 o'clock.
Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
And 3 of you go?
No, because then it's a board meeting.
Oh, you have to, yeah.
And the other meeting is, I just got an email tonight from Alfred University.
Oh, yeah, is that, are we discussing that tonight?
Thought so.
No, they canceled.
Oh,
They're coming in June.
okay.
But I got an email from Mike Kozlowski at AU. They would like to meet with me, the mayor, and others from the village of Alfred and town. The purpose would be to discuss various AU facilities related initiatives that are being considered or currently on the table for implementation.
Made that happen. I did.
Okay,
The creek.
and other initiatives, the village.
I talked to Mark today.
So they're proposing May 25th in the afternoon. So that's gonna be,
Next week.
that's a Wednesday also, yeah. So I'm wondering if there's somebody who's willing to go to the Northland Power pre-app meeting and somebody willing to go to the AU meeting. It's my bodyguards.
What time of day the Northland meeting will be?
I have
Northland,
reservations about not having the Northland meeting open to everybody. I know it would make it a board meeting, but restricting doesn't feel right to me.
Is there any reason we can't?
we
Make it a
can
board
have
meeting?
a,
Let's do a public meeting.
then we just have to advertise it as a
Right.
public meeting.
Well,
okay with
there's
me.
that, but there's also, I checked with Sean, but I think that Northland was doing the two only, not a board meeting, because if it was a real board meeting, then it triggers something else in the process. Is that possibly the case?
I don't know.
Or
Well,
does it-
Dwight had recommended not, but I don't know that I fully get his rationale.
Well, is this part of Northland's,
It's part of the sequence they have to go through.
but is it part of, is it at all part of the agreement with the town? Because if so, it's
Apparently
not
not.
public yet.
Yeah, apparently it's not, there's no decisions, there's no negotiation on the pilot or anything like that. Apparently they're
Just
just
not
a
negotiation,
presentation.
presentation, okay.
I mean, it seems,
They probably don't want this to be their official announcement meeting to the board.
That's what
That
I
it
thought.
has, that they have to have the 60 days before they can make their application to Ori's.
Mhm.
I would
this
go-
part of state law doesn't make sense to me. Like,
Yes, and they don't want it to be a public meeting.
right, but how are you supposed to inform your public officials if the public officials can't be there?
Right.
Representatives come back and tell you.
Well, I'm not gonna defend the state regulations.
No,
I'm
it just
just gonna
doesn't-
tell you what Dwight recommended, that it'd be 2 board members.
Okay,
So is there somebody who?
what time is the AU meeting?
The AU meeting, I think they were saying in the afternoon of the 25th, but there's no time set at this point, correct? Jim?
Just plain.
Afternoon of May 25.
What's that hearing?
Pardon me?
What's that hearing?
AU facilities up.
AU. Apparently they want to talk about their facilities related initiatives. So I guess that would include Jericho, but it may include other things.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things.
Oh, really?
Town name.
Okay. So does anybody want to volunteer for either one of those?
I think I can do the June, the Northland Power meeting.
10 o'clock? Okay.
Well, can we find out more from Dwight as to why he thinks it needs to not be a real board meeting, or why it has to be restricted before we go there?
I can ask. I certainly would do that.
It just seems that as many of us who can should be in attendance.
Okay. I'll do that before I confirm attendance.
Yeah, so that's the same day as the open house, just earlier in the day.
Right. How about the AU meeting? Anybody want to go with that? 25?
I can't do that one.
I can try.
You'll be my bodyguard?
If for some reason he can't make it, call me.
Okay. As soon as I know a time.
Unless Wendy, you want in on that?
No, it's all right.
Sure.
What day is that?
Next
25.
Wednesday.
Thinking afternoon, yeah.
Yeah, they said afternoon, we just don't have time.
Okay.
As I know, I'll let you know. Thanks.
What time? Are you putting your calendar down?
If you can't make, not yet, if you can't, we don't know what time after you can't make it, just. Oh, she'll go.
The only other thing, did you have a chance to look on chairs? about chairs?
Maybe not.
Okay, that's no big deal. And we never got anything more from Bobby as to what she wants for table.
I think I'm just gonna order something.
Yeah.
There's a research chairs,
Okay, that's all I've got.
boardroom chairs.
We have an account at Quill, and they have quite a good selection of office furniture if you wanna.
Quill,
Mhm.
okay.
It's really.
Because they raised the price by 30%.
No, their prices are pretty good.
Okay, town clerk's report, Jen, anything?
I don't have anything, I just wanted to remind you that, I think Wendy's the one that said there should be some kind of building permit procedure for the solar projects, and Sean actually gave us one from, that he uses in Mount Morris, so I made a copy of that. I don't know if I've already given it to you or not, but I'll just check it.
And that's for residential.
No, this is for the large scale.
Oh, large scale.
Because I know there was talk about we needed to make sure everything was done, which Sean will do anyway, but this is what he uses. So I just let him know.
Okay. Done, Sean. Okay, new business. So back to the moratorium. We have the language, revised language of the moratorium on electromagnetic radiation. We're going to set up a public hearing prior to the June meeting, and then we can act on that subsequent to the meeting. Is there anything from the planning board?
I think you have to just approve the original one that was with the public hearing, because you did hold a public hearing for that. You have to vote now to not accept that one, I believe.
Okay, so well, let's do that then. I move that we reject the moratorium. I don't know what language that should be used here, on which we had the
From the
public
public
hearing.
hearing, yeah.
Yeah.
Moratorium that was presented and advertised at the public hearing.
Okay, I move that we reject that. Is there a second? Yeah. Discussion. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Okay, now we have the revised language in the moratorium. So we'll set a public hearing. Do we need to make a motion to set up a public hearing? I move we set up a public hearing prior at 7 o'clock on June the 9th for the revised moratorium. Is there a second?
Second.
10 seconds. Discussion. All in favor, aye? Aye.
So
Opposed?
you just have to post that prior,
10 days.
that whole document, we have to post it on the website.
Not the whole document. We have to post that we're gonna have it and then reference it as being available. It'll be on our website and also. Correct? That's what we did for the one tonight.
One is not on the website, I checked, it's just listed under the April. What was part of the package for the April meeting, there's the actual, so now somehow somebody needs to post the new moratorium with a legal, with the legal thing for the public hearing, so it's on the website, and I think that now is legally, you have to do that, because it's gonna be discussed at the next board meeting, and you have it prior to me, so I think that has to be on the website now, on the new freedom of information law.
So is that something that you can put on for us?
The updated moratorium. Yeah,
I
the
put it-
original is up there now, so.
But it's only listed under under the things for the April meeting with the minutes. Unless it was somewhere else, because I looked today to see which one was on there. And I would- we only
It's under
have-
local laws.
Yeah, put it on local laws.
And it's
Oh,
worded as if it's already a law.
Oh, that would be confusing, right?
yeah.
So where should it be?
Right there. It should be under announcements and.
News and events?
News and
Okay.
Yeah,
events,
because it's
yeah.
not
This
local
isn't
law.
the-
Because it
okay.
hasn't been approved, and that's not even the one you're. Well, that's the new one, right? Which was not the one that was being heard at the public hearings.
Oh, is this the new one? Is this the updated one? Yeah.
This is the updated.
Oh, sure, yeah, it is. Okay. I'll move it over.
Yeah.
It'll be there
Thank you.
for the-
So, but at least,
For June.
at least it's there, but yeah, it's
Okay.
not, we're not past that, so.
Yeah.
And there also should say local, if you go back,
Proposed.
Back here.
to the title. It does say local number 1 of 2000, okay, I didn't
Okay.
see that on there.
Good, thanks. Thank you both. Any comments from the planning board regarding this new moratorium?
No, that, we,
I have a couple of comments. Section 2, the third line, we had a typo pointed out, and that should say 6-month moratorium instead of 1 year. So that's one change that we have to be sure. I sent a copy with that change incorporated today. But we have to be sure that that is corrected because the planning board of the county has reviewed it and they picked up on that typo. And then also, there was one other spot in section 6, item 2, where it should read in the third sentence, effective radiated power, in parentheses, ERP. That is an actual measurement, and that clarifies. It said effective power before, but it should be effective radiated power and ERP. So those two changes make sense, and that would make this a final form for publication and for review at the next meeting. But it's important that there's been a lot of versions of this. It's important that this most recent version be the one that gets forwarded with the edits.
Okay, good.
It was also brought up last night at the board meeting that at this point, the village is not involved in the moratorium, would not be included into the moratorium at this point.
Right. So is there any intention on the village
At this
part
point,
to-
it hasn't
Hasn't
been
come up.
discussed.
Okay. All right.
but I believe it was recommended that the town and the village get together after the moratorium was passed
Mhm.
and discuss working on this project together. So that the town, or so that the village gets included in all the information that we gather.
That would be, yeah. I think we
And
need to
that's-
work on that.
Fred and I have talked about that and so we will, after we've got it passed, we'll reach out to you or Becky and
We have, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Bill.
Pardon?
I wondered, we hadn't made any determinations about hiring third-party consultant to research in the 6-month window to research the effects. The reason for the moratorium, I take it partly at least, is to
Right.
research the safety concerns. But we're not qualified to do that ourselves. I think Fred had mentioned firm that-
Yes. There's a legal firm that are considered to be experts in the field.
You know what they cost?
Yeah, a lot, and we don't have the money for it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're gonna pay. I mean, I'm
We're
being
just
honest.
talking about hundreds of thousands of
But
dollars.
some of that's restricted, some of it you cannot use for stuff like that.
Okay.
Have to get some estimates from them.
What is, whatever, $6,000 from the one down.
Well, my understanding was the one consultant was like $8,700, but that was for legal work. And you're talking about actual testing work? Yeah, so that would be something different. So
We would need to find a qualified engineer that could do the testing
right,
and then decide where we wanted the spot testing to take place in the town.
right.
There
So
may be an opportunity to get some grant funding or we need to design the investigation is what we need to do. And I would suggest that now that we have this sort of a grace period before the final moratorium is put in place, that we begin meeting with the village. And that we give them the information that we have and access to the science and the medical reports that we have. And that we get them to understand that they are essentially the ground zero of what we're trying to resolve and protect. And so we need to talk with the village, and I would suggest, Dan, that you appoint or ask the representatives of the planning board to engage the village. And as far as the monies and who we can get to do what to who, we need to design that. You can't sit here and say, oh, that's too much money. No, we need to figure out the approach, the strategy, and how we are going to finance it. Don't shut it down now. We're just starting.
I think what we'll do is, if the village decides they want to move forward with this, then we can certainly assist
I
in
don't
that.
see how you can include the village and not include both institutions.
Yeah,
I mean,
We are
that's what-
going to. I have been in conversations with both institutions for over a year.
Well, they need to be included. If
Absolutely.
you're gonna address anything in the village, you're gonna find more of that change that can easily take place on either institution before it hits the village. But we will end up in the, whatever impact there is as a result of that, because they're both E1s. They're zone D1s, and they pretty much can do that without consulting the village.
I'm not suggesting we don't consult everyone involved. We need the university, the state college, we need the village, we need the town, and we need the population. This is an all-encompassing investigation as to the safety of the public in this valley.
here's my suggestion. Will this come up, if the village wants to get involved with this,
Mhm.
then we will certainly, I think our planning boards are willing to assist.
Okay.
And maybe in the interim, the planning board could give us an outline of how we might proceed in terms of an investigation. If that's something the planning board wants to do, or if it's appropriate at this time or not, that's up to you.
I think we should pursue it, from the planning board, put the plan together, but I mean, if it's $8,000 or $10,000 or $15,000, get the colleges to chip in. It's impacting them more than anybody. They're influencing it more than anybody.
They will.
And for them to chip in $5,000 or $10,000 is peanuts.
But because of where they're situated, I thought it was appropriate that the village invite them into
Right.
these discussions.
Yeah,
Oh, for sure.
Because they're in the village.
yeah.
They're in the village, but they're, because of the zoning, they're protected from us. If it's directly on campus, we have very little that we can do.
Right.
If they put it outside the village, or put it inside the village itself, then there's an impact. But
I don't know, they can take care of it, or you can make a nice article, like on your phone.
Well, there is probably going to be nothing put up. What we're going to do is evaluate the existing dangers and
Right.
the health ramifications. And in the process, we're going to regulate the types of equipment the strength of the types of equipment that can be mounted or placed in proximity to the schools and to, say any of the medical facilities, different areas that are going to be sensitive, daycare centers, things like that.
Sure.
And this is all areas that both of these colleges are going to want input with. And frankly, when the colleges are in place, they've got 6,000 students. And the liability factor alone for them is enormous. So we think that they would want to jump in and be as proactive as we want to be. I don't
can't
see
speak on
that
their
anybody,
behalf, and
I don't think, see that anybody from the colleges has said no about anything yet. I think that the village really needs to invite them into this.
Well, of course we will. I mean, it's definitely something that we want to get involved in. But I think it really has to come from you guys are the source. You need to bring it to us.
Yes.
Because you have the information already. I can be the messenger, but I cannot be the one that delivers the information. You guys have to.
So, yeah, if you guys want to invite us in,
Sure.
I'm sure the planning board would be willing to come in. And in the meantime, if the planning board wants to sort of outline an approach for this, that would be useful as well.
Okay.
Good. Okay, anything else before we go to executive session?
I have one other thing. When we were at the county planning board, they have a large room, and it may be a little better acoustics than the room you're in, but I noticed that their sound was particularly good. And they had a microphone on the table that was handling the entire room. And it looked like something that you used to see Walter Cronkite talk into. It was a big microphone. And I think we need to improve that, because I have missed 30% of what has been said tonight because of the quality of sound. Now, maybe it's my speakers here, but I don't think so. We need to maybe spend some of that aid from the federal government to improve the video and to improve the sound. And I know we have those little microphones, but they're not doing the job. And this is important to be able to record these meetings and be able to understand what's being said. So that's just something that I'd like to offer. Get a better microphone, spend some of those aid dollars on that. And obviously the video setup is not there tonight.
So tonight, yeah, Fred, thanks for your input there. We did update the camera and the microphone. We've got an owl like the village has. It's a central single unit that sits in the middle of the room. The video tonight is on the fritz, not because of the camera, but because Zoom needed a reboot, and I couldn't reboot once we started the meeting without kicking everyone off. The microphone, from what I've heard from the village and from others on this thing, is an improvement from the setup that we had before. But if it's still bad, we can look at, there's an auxiliary input on this for a satellite mic. We could do that and see if that improves it. Beyond that, it's probably the room.
Does it use both? It's on
Wendy, how has the sound been for you, Wendy?
Tonight was especially hard. It would crackled in and out. There was I would have said 30 was low. I feel like I missed half of the meeting.
You can select one. So the other thing is I came in not in time to see that the owl needs a firmware update. So maybe after that update's done, it'll improve it. But yeah, those are helpful comments.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was cutting out.
Okay,
too.
thank you.
It was batching.
Okay, I would like to go to executive session to discuss personnel and litigation matters.
Do we need to make a resolution on this hazard mitigation plan tonight?
I don't think so. I think that's just to let you know that they're gonna be coming out with more information on it.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking it was, there was something along these lines that we approve every so often.
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay.
Okay, I move that we go to executive session. Is there a second? Matthew, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you all. We're going executive. Thanks for coming, Jen. Okay, we're back. Okay, we're back to the general session, and I move that we adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you all.
You will. Have you heard any details? What's that? Have you heard any details on that?
Good night, Wendy.
No.
Oh, she's gonna, I saw Billy has her
They're-
folder, but